Oh yeah, modern technology. What a wonder.
That's right. Hello, I'm Jerry McKee, and you've probably seen this flash on and flash back off. That's because when power went off, I used another type of internet, and it was picking it up, and it's bad when it picks it up. I need so much to up all this equipment, and it just would not do it. We got Will Wesley here, and he's going to be talking to us about his career and his adventures, and I'm interested about his European vacation. It kind of makes me like think about Chevy Chase, European vacation.
Yeah.
But I know when I been overseas a couple of times, but you get a little culture shock. But we're gonna go in that in just a moment like that. And let me introduce you. This is Will Wesley. Will Wesley he's not he grew up in Baker, Louisiana, but he is now in Walker, Louisiana, and they do not have any mosquitoes down there because I lived in Monroe, Louisiana for a while, and that's when they had like a little flood down there. And you have little tiny mosquitoes, right? Will?
Little baby ones, but they're very annoying. But they'll get you pretty bad. But they're little baby ones.
Will, I mean, you all been all over the place, and your music is to me it's got some soul in it, and also it's country rock. And
Yeah.
but I want to ask you is that who taught you, and how did you end up getting into music? I know everybody's got a story when you were little. Uh, to me, it was like bicycles and little planes and stuff like that. How did you become interested in music and playing the guitar? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, man, when I was a young kid, my childhood was marked by my father working all day at Exxon and coming home and playing music around the table or having his friends over playing music. And my first experiences was listening to him play guitar around the table. And he started showing me different chords and a few scales. And from there, I just got bit with the music bug, man. We always had music all around our house. And so I always just would listen to these great artists that I grew up listening to, and I would fuse their stories and read their biographies and all this, and eventually just start fusing the influences into my own music.
And so who was some of your greatest inspiration when you was growing up as a kid? Who did you listen to as a kid?
When I was growing up, one of my biggest influences was a not so famous musician by the name of Doc Watson. I grew up listening to a lot of Doc Watson music. And my dad had me on that at a very young age. He was a great flat top picker, and I grew up listening to him. But also Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, all the classic great. Hank Williams is my absolute favorite, and
Well,
grew up listening to all of that too. And of course, rhythm and blues. We had a lot of rhythm and blues going on in the house as well. So I kind of grew up listening to a bit of a gambit of all of it.
now, how old was you when you started getting really interested? Was it? I think I read somewhere like 7 years old, or
Pretty close. I was about I would say when I first started playing the guitar, I was around 11 years old. My dad kind of bought me a guitar from a pawn shop that I still have it of all things, and I started learning on that, and I started at 11, and I've just never stopped. I've been going ever since.
now when you was first starting to play, did you have to build your fingers up? Was it get sore?
They hurt day and night when I first started playing. My fingertips now are just like leather.
Yeah, my
But when
grandson.
I was a kid,
Yeah, my grandson
oh
when he
yeah, oh
started
yeah.
playing, he said, "Oh man, this hurts too bad." So
Yeah, yeah, it takes a bit of conditioning to get those fingertips feeling better.
now, when you talk about, you said a flat top. Now, is that like a steel guitar? Is that a dobro or a big?
Well, when I was a kid, it's kind of a slang for a style of guitar playing. He wasn't. Doc was when they say a flat top picker, he was more just the way he approached his playing. Some people are finger pickers,
Uh-huh.
some people, and that was just they called him a flat top picker. He was a dang good. Just he used a pick, but he was very good and fluent on an acoustic guitar.
Oh, great. I mean, I was trying to wonder, I was trying to figure my brain. I said, wait, what's a flat top? Because I don't know what they
Yeah,
go. And, now you say you still have that guitar that you got out of what's the name brand of that?
man, it's a PVT 60. If you remember those, that
P.
thing weighs about 200 pounds. It feels, man. It's like an old oak tree when you play it. It's heavier than a Gibson Les Paul. But it was my first guitar, man, and I've had it for many years.
Now, when you was growing up listening to music, now you listening to most of the blues then? Um,
A lot of it, yeah. Growing up, man, I was constantly listening to BB King, all the Kings,
oh
Albert
yeah.
King, Freddie King. I listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa, the younger guys at the time like Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Johnny Lang, but really just listen to everybody, man. And it's funny. Even now, I still listen to the old Delta blues classics and all these this soulful music that I've always loved so much.
Well, back then they had a different rhythm, a different style of music that sometimes today is get lost. And
Very much.
now uh, outlaw country music. Uh,
Oh yeah.
kind of tell people what is outlaw country music. I know what it is because my age. Uh, that really the people that really don't know what outlaw music is. They think, oh, outlaw, what is that? It's like a gang.
I'd read some stories. Now, don't quote me on this. I don't know if this is fully correct, but I had read where a lot of the outlaw movement in country began was, I'm not going to say anti-Nashville, but I'd read that people like Willie Nelson, a lot of those artists had, Waylon Jennings had started moving more into Texas and starting to do their thing out there. And that's from what I've read where a lot of the outlaw country movement began. For me, outlaw country was always just a prettied up word for doing country music the way I want to do it. you
It,
know,
it is. It's a different style. It's a different rhythm. A different. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. You just have to listen to Willie Nelson and listen to Waylon Jennings and
yeah.
all. Let's see, Hank Williams. Even I know he's old school.
I think Hank Williams was the ultimate outlaw just because of the life he lived. He lived hell on wheels. I mean, he was kicked out of every every venue he could. He had a bad drinking problem, of course, but his music was honest and real, and I think that's why it still translates today.
Well, it does, and I love listening to some of the older music more than it costs my age. But I like a little bit of all music. It's to
Oh yeah.
me, music is just good for your soul anyway. Even some rap music, I like some of that. It's especially if it tells a good story.
Oh yeah.
And but now, who, what artist would you consider your idol, and why?
In country music, I hate to say it because we just talked about him, but I'd have to say Hank Williams. I love Hank Williams, but the reason why is I love his songs naturally, like everyone else, but I love his story, man. I love how he really lived the life that he told. He was very honest in his songs. You could tell that him and Audrey didn't get along too well because a lot of those songs reflected it. And I can really relate to that. I can understand the songs that he does and the story he tells, and also even the way he died. I found something when a lot of people say it's tragic, and it is. I find something very inspirational about the way he, despite having many health issues and having addiction problems in his back and all that, still had music in him so much that his last days were spent in an old Cadillac trying to tour around and try to make it. It shows how much he loved music, and that was something that always inspired me about him.
And that's what country music to me is. The older country music tells a story, and it's a story
Yeah.
that needs to be told. I was talking to Richard Sturban, and he was telling me that uh, how the song Elvira got its name,
Oh, interesting.
and I says, okay, how did it get its name? He said the writer came up to a stop sign, and there was a street sign named Elvira.
Oh,
So,
darn, I didn't know that.
so he wrote it down and went down the street, and Richard does that bass, oom bapa, mow mow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he said that came from the potholes in that road that the writer went down, and he kept just saying, ooh, papa, mama. And then after he got home, he started putting all this together with other things, but the name of the song comes from a street, and the oom, papa, mama is potholes.
Well, you learn something new every day, Jerry. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how the song come to be.
I didn't either. As like I said, I love these interviews because I learned a lot from
Oh,
all
yeah.
different sorts of people. But it was I thought that was pretty neat, and because everybody just kind of knows that song. But again, there's another story, that these songs bring, and some of the newer artists coming in, I think they got to learn that, because they just think, well, we'll just write any song, or do this right here, and it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't give the deep down stuff.
I couldn't agree more. Like one of the things that I feel is that a lot of country music has lost the stories. The very thing that made country music was the stories and things they tell. But I'm very much like you in the sense that I have respect for a lot of different styles of music, and I love a lot of different styles of music. But I do believe in trying to preserve the real country music and the things that were there way before we ever got here. A lot of these songs, they really told a true, honest story. And I feel like a lot of current music has lost that. I feel like we need to go back to that. I feel like we need to quit trying to write hits and start trying to write lifetimes.
Right, and I think it reaches more people
I
when you
do.
do
I think
that.
so.
That's like when now the albums come back. Everybody's got to have an album.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Some of the younger generations think that's just as good as dirt. That's some great stuff. That album.
Yeah.
Of course, we won't see the 8 tracks and the other come back because it drags.
Well, you never know. It may come back too. Who knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
Better and better. But I just thought it was neat that they brought back the albums because that sound. And I used to DJ many years ago, and
Oh, yeah.
that sound and that it just is something
Crackles
different.
and pops. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. I got one myself. I love that. I love that very much.
Now, Where were you at when you got to sing in your biggest audience that you ever played in front of? And tell me your experience and your feeling about that.
I would have to say in Europe playing recently. I'd have to say this is recent. We've had some big shows, opening up for Alabama and things like that was pretty special. But recently in Europe, we had the pleasure of going to play the Trucker Fest in Switzerland, and going out in front of thousands and thousands of people like that and playing your songs and have them react to you very strongly on that. That was just something special, man. I can never express how great that really was.
Now, what was the Festival? I've heard of it, but what to me, I'm thinking a bunch of tractor and trailer trucks, or
Yeah, kind of. Well, they call it the Trucker Fest, but really it's just because they pull it out in this big old field out in Switzerland and all the big semis. And, they have these trucks there, and some people play on the back of the truck beds, but they have huge stages, and it's just the theme of their country. But it was something special, man. There was just thousands and thousands of people. I'll never forget it.
what did it kind of blow you away at first when you first seen it and take you kind of breath a little bit? So you
Oh,
just
it did. Oh, it did. Yeah, I was a little nervous, to be honest. When I first got there, I was nervous.
Well, I think most artists are, and the ones I've talked to tell me the same thing when they have a little until they get on that stage and start performing. It's almost like instantly it
Oh,
goes away. You do your thing, and
if you can get through that first song, I think it turns out to be okay.
right.
It's just that first song and getting there and making sure everything is smooth. And when that crowd claps for the first time, I think you're good to go and ready to ride.
Well, they're kind of like your cheerleader. In the football games, you got cheerleaders out there that supposed to getting you pumped up. So they're really kind of your cheerleaders to feed you that insulin, doesn't it?
It is. It is. That's a good way of putting it. I've never heard it that way, but I'd have to agree with it.
Now, back in your younger day, let's flash back a little bit. Uh, where you used to start sneaking in bars at 15 years
Oh,
old and and using your beard to fool everyone. Now you see me. I don't have a beard because I can't grow one, and I think it's cool if I
hey,
could
it's a
grow a
good
big
thing. That
beard.
could be a good thing. You know, it's a very true story, Jerry. It really is. When I was a kid, a lot of these blues clubs were they were pretty rough places, and you had to go by the law, and we couldn't. They were very worried because I was too young to play. And I remember the club owner, this guy Bill that I knew, he eventually told the band, "Hey, look, we'll grow out your beard, grow it as much as you can, play these shows, and if anybody asks, well, then we'll deal with it." Well, no one ever asked. I started getting pretty popular playing the blues around there, and that's how I got started in music.
So they loved the music. They didn't care how old you was, and you probably didn't tell them either. And
I didn't tell them no.
now, did you wear your cowboy hat when you had the beard and all that? Did you kind of look kind of?
No, in those years, I think if I took off the cowboy hat and took off the glasses, I looked more like a rock and roller. I'd have my hair down about like that, and I'd be doing everything I could at the time, But yeah, I started wearing my cowboy hat a little bit later.
Now, tell me, what's the name of your brand of your cowboy hat? What is your
I always,
favorite?
I love Stetson hats, man. That's what I wear.
I have
And I
one.
wear Justin's too. I wear Justin hats too. I like them as well.
Yeah, there was a. I can't think of her name right off the hand. I had her interviewed right then. She had a hat sponsor of Justin's. Was sponsored one of her sponsors,
You
and
know, that's a good hat.
yes, it is. And I have a Stetson that Alan Jackson Stetson hat, and I wear it once in a while. And I got an old hat back from the 30s. My grandfather used to be a U.S. Marshal, and he used to wear it.
Oh
And
wow!
and it's almost like one of those. The brim comes around. Looks like actually one of Dick Tracy hats back in the days.
That's impressive. There, that's the old school. I like that a lot.
Oh, I wear it once in a while like that, and that just his matter of fact, his card's still in the hat and everything, so it's pretty neat. But Stetson is
Oh
is a
man!
great too. So
Oh, it is. You got to hold on to that one. That's a classic.
now you said you played the blues when you was on stage when you kind of snuck in there. It was actually a blues bar, right? That's what mostly it was that in Baker, right?
Yeah, well, Baton Rouge, and
Oh yes.
it was a rock. It was a rock blues bar. You could play country in there too. But in those years, I was just heavy in the blues and rock guitar playing, and that's just what I got started. I was a kid, and that's what I got started off doing. I was just winning over all the bands I could, trying to show them what I can do. I started out as a guitar picker before I started out as a singer and songwriter.
How did you figure out that you can sing? I mean, like you said, you start out playing the guitar
Yeah.
and playing that way, and this voice is starting to come out of you, and somebody had to say, "Hey, wait a minute, you're good." How'd that transpire?
Well, I used to play with this old group called Susan Owens and Filigree. Susan was a band leader that I played guitar for, and she just kind of told me one day. She said, "You need to start singing." She was like, "Because I need a break on the stage, and I want you to sing a couple of songs." And that's literally it threw me into it. And I wasn't too good when I first started, but I got the bug and started singing, and I've been doing it ever since. So I'd have to thank Susan. She's no longer with us. She died years ago, but
Oh,
she was really instrumental in getting me started singing.
wow. Uh, Again, Richard Sterban said when he got started, he was I think in seventh grade. He sung in a choir as a soprano. And when he come back in the eighth grade, his voice has changed so much. They put him in the bass section.
That's right. That's
so,
good.
did your voice change any, or did it pretty well stayed the same? I mean,
It's changed a lot. When I first started, oh God, I must have been, I think when I started singing, I was probably maybe 17, maybe 18 when I finally got up the nerve to start trying to sing. And my voice was real throaty, real gravelly, then, but I've
hmm
learned how to use and sing from the stomach and the diaphragm and learn how to do it that way. So I definitely think my voice has changed over the years, most definitely.
Now, did you get to go and sing like in the high school, or did you sing maybe even go back to some of the high school reunions, and they said, "Wow, he came here, and we want him at our reunion."
You know, that would be fun, but I never did. I actually just started in the clubs and started working and playing and just kind of went on with my life from there.
Now, what really drawed you to the blues? I mean, it's a sorrowful sound the blues is, and I know it tells a story and all, but it's got to be something that really captured you there to start singing the blues.
I think it was the soul of it, Jerry. I think that just the feeling, and I found it relatable at a young age to these songs that they sounded like my life to me. And that's what started me in music, was listening to rhythm and blues and how much I related to it, and then going back to country music and really relating to the stories of country. I think those things really is what drew me to it. The relatability.
Yeah. Well, Louisiana is just that's what they're known for, or the blues, and
Oh yeah, definitely.
especially going down to Bourbon Street, and uh, like I said, I was in Monroe, Louisiana. Even there, that's you heard a lot of the blues, and then giant mosquitoes. Well, out in them countries, when you're watching a concert, you better spray up, you know. But
You better, 'cause they'll get you. They'll get you.
so now, you begin touring behind like legends like Larry Gardner, Tabby Thomas, and Grady Champton. How was that? Who was those guys? I mean, you got to hang out with some of these legends, and what are some things that they told you to encourage you, and the do's and don'ts of the business, and how did they? I mean, it had to be just great just getting to meet these guys.
It was fantastic. I never really got a chance to tour with Tabby, but he lived in my hometown, so I used to always go to Tabby's Blues Box and play. And a story that I have of Tabby Thomas is one day I wanted to play with his band, and I had to go meet him in the back and see if I can play enough to jam with him that night. And I made a horrible mistake. He gave me his guitar and said, "Play something," and I said, "Okay, let me tune it up." And he said, and he said, "You know how those blues guys?" He goes, "What did you say?" I said, "Well, your guitar's out of tune. I'm gonna tune it up." He goes, "Hey, my guitar is not out of tune. You're out of tune." And that was my first experience. I didn't get a chance to play with him or anything. Well, years later, I was playing with a good friend of mine, Smokehouse Porter, and he shows up and he's giving a speech, and he says, "Well, I think that band is about as good as anybody I've ever seen." And I was kind of the only white fella in the band, And when he got to me, he goes, "And that guitarist plays the blues better than anybody I've heard around here, and I do believe he's Caucasian." And growing up, and the stories that I have in that world they may not be politically correct, but they are some dang good memories. Like with Grady Champion, we toured all over the world together. Went to Europe, all over the United States. We played wood songs with Michael Jonathan and all that. And Grady, he was always real, real particular. I was his music director, so he'd be like, "Don't oversing in the microphone." So he had this 6-inch rule where you had to sit back from the mic and not sing your harmonies over him. And just all these stories I have really helped me to mold me to the kind of music I play today.
Let's talk about the music director. Now, you a music director, people think, well, you got a little wand, you tap it like that, and you
Oh yeah.
do all this stuff here, and but it's a lot of technical stuff. Not only that, but you gotta have that ear for it. And he was telling you, like I said, what 6 inches from the microphone, don't
Yeah, yeah,
overpower
don't
it.
overthink. As a music director, a lot of people do think you're walking around with a wand, but you're not. A lot of it is keeping the band in line, knowing your music theory, being able to write out charts, and being able to instruct the band on how it should sound, and also making sure everybody's on time. In a lot of those blues bands, you had to wear a suit, so making sure everybody's suit and tie and ready on time and ready to go on that stage. So A lot of responsibility comes with it, but it definitely was a special time of my life.
It had to be because I mean, and it taught you a lot about even about your music on some
Yeah,
directions, it, especially now in the music studio. Now each instrument has a different part. Each like the drummer has one part, the lead, the singer, and this right here. So they got to know when to come in. And I noticed in some studios they have separate. They might be in another room. One might be in another place a little further away, and they're got their headphones on. And are they
yeah.
listening to the others, and or is that just something that their beat or their part?
When you're in the recording studio, there's a lot, and when I say a lot, that goes into that from the production stand view and things like that. That's a whole nother world compared to the live performance areas. And it's like you said, every musician has to know their parts. The drummer, even though the drums are the drums, the guitar, bass, each instrument has its place within the song and the melody, and understanding where that's at and not playing too much or playing too little. That's really the magic of recording in the studio. I always tell people when we get in and record these songs, like 12 o'clock in Texas, the one we just recorded, it's something that you have to understand, not just when to play, but when not to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A little bit different in the studio than it is out on the stage, correct?
So very much so. Out on the stage, you can blow and go. You can play as hard as you want, but in the studio, you got to pull back a good bit.
Right. Now, on the how many instruments do you play?
That's the funny thing. I've always just been a guitarist. I'm not a multi instrumental guy. I sing and I play guitar.
Look,
Now I have a bass player who plays piano, bass, drums, and all that. But I've always just devoted to one instrument, just guitar. I loved it.
now, before you got to playing with a band like that, was you more acoustic? I mean, just playing you and the guitar starting out, or did you always play with a band?
Starting out, I played acoustic and took lessons, and also played with a band. So I really kind of did a mix of them all. I was always very into to live bands, so I love playing electric guitar and playing live solo, and I'm always been a lead guitar picker. But I also love the intimacy of playing with just a folk guitar, just one straight guitar, and playing those old classic tunes too. So I'm a little bit of both.
Now, I got to ask you about your uh, New Orleans Regional Division of the International Blues Challenge. You was
Yeah,
not only a one-time winner, but a two-time winner. Tell me about that organization.
you know, um, the blues competition when I won it the first time as a band, I won it as a band and as a solo act. We went in as a band, and they have a great organization down there in New Orleans, and it's all these great bands competing. And we went and the first year we lost by half a point. We came in second place, and we went back the next year and we won it all together, and went to Memphis to represent. And a couple years after that, I won it as a solo artist. Playing my own songs and just playing acoustic guitar like you talked about. Pretty good example of what we were just saying. I played it with a band and acoustic. And they just have a wonderful organization, the New Orleans Blues Society, and they sent us off to Memphis where we competed. I didn't win in Memphis, but it was one heck of an experience.
Well, I tell you what, I said not only one, he got it twice. Now, I got to. Did you get a big trophy, or I'm not sitting here saying one, and here comes this great big trophy of a guitar or something with blues on it. Just and did they put your name in like the Hall of Fame of their organization, or
They may put you in their organization. We didn't get a trophy or anything like that. Winning the regional, you go on to what they would call the finals, and we didn't win there. So I think if you win the actual finals, you get the trophy. So I got one step below the trophy.
now you write your own songs, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah. How do you get? Where do you get the inspiration on some of your songs? Do you wake up in the middle of the night writing them down? How do you just they just come to you in a dream, or things you see, or Tell me a little experience about how you're writing, because we got a lot of folks that hey, I like to write some music, but they'll write a couple sentences and say, "Uh-oh, I'm blocked." What?
Songs come to me in a lot of different inspirations, man. Sometimes it does come through a dream. Sometimes it comes through a personal experience. Like my last single that I just released, 12 O'Clock in Texas. That's I'd have to say a song like that is just, it comes from true life experience, losing
Right.
a brother and things like that. And, some songs are just stories that you lived, and other songs, they just come to you in weird ways. My inspirations always come from all angles, to be honest.
It depends on what people you meet, or probably the things you even see. I mean, it could be looking and eating a hamburger. It come to you.
Ah, that's right. That's right. I can go with that. I definitely can go with that.
Yeah. When I was talking to Monty Allen, who played for Alan Jackson, and I was talking about he writes music. He says, well, the difference between someone writing music and poetry, he said, writing music, you're adding the lyrics and the music, you're adding the music to it. He said, that's writing
Yeah,
music. He said, somebody just writing the words, he said, that's poetry. He said, I said, well, I
that's
never thought of it
oh,
that way. Now,
man. I actually would have to agree with him 100% on that.
now, you did go through a hard time because you and your brother was close, and the songs you
Yeah.
played, I was looking at, and what asked me the coin. I knew what the coin was because I'm old.
Oh,
we had we
well,
had we had coins like that we could go to the movies and stuff with, and watching your video there, and you digging it out of the sand like that. Even that brought by memories, and that's what your song's supposed to do.
oh yeah.
And
Well, Jerry, you're the first one who noticed that was a movie coin. You're the first one in all the interviews who have noticed that we're jumping from a movie coin to a sobriety coin. Man, that's very good attention to details.
well, I talked to a lot of people that's been on drugs and rehabs and different things like that, which they have coins, and that just kind of reflect back when I went to the movies. We used to it wasn't worth nothing but a quarter just to get into movies back then.
Oh wow, times have changed now, haven't they?
Ooh, have they ever? Now, with your permission, I want to play this song, 12 o'clock, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, okay? I'm going to play it.
Please do.
I'm going to play about a minute here or something. We'll be able to. I'll have to ask you about the 1995.
Oh yeah.
A Texas wind is blowing, the clouds are moving in. I've been driving for hours, remembering where we've been. I'm miles and miles from nowhere, the moon has disappeared. There's a thunder in the distance, it reminds me you're not here. So I turn on the radio, searching for a song. The static's all that greets me, and I know I'm all alone. So I push on through the darkness, trying to stay awake. But this coffee that I'm drinking ain't strong enough to shake the rain.
Now, on the 1995, where's that coming from?
This video is one of the most honest videos I've ever done, and we went back to the year 1995 because that was a year when I was probably about 10 years old, and my brother was about 14, and it's 14 or 15, and I felt like that year would be a strong starting point, being that we're telling the story of how an older brother that I would lose through addiction years later was once the person who was helping me up. He was once the person that I looked up to and the person that I was getting through life with. So when I sat down to write the script of that video, I wanted to tell it from the angle of my perspective of who he was before he was an addict, someone who looked out for me, someone who kept me safe. And that's why the year 1995 was so significant there.
Okay. And I noticed listening to the song, and at the beginning you talk about this is to make people aware of drug awareness, and because it's more so now than it ever has been with fentanyl and stronger drugs, and a lot of people ODing and just having a rough time with it. And I know and I'm sorry that your brother had to go through that, and because he said at 14 and you're 10, you got a big brother, you look up to him. And I have brothers and sisters, and you kind of look up, and uh, and you, and I'm a Presbyterian pastor also, and I know that talking with people that's been on drugs, I've been on them myself, and you have that certain compassion because it's not something they want to do. It's something they just can't help.
That's exactly right. And with the case with Daniel, it was that way. He really struggled. He tried to get off, and in his last years, I tried to get him to rehab. I tried to do anything I could to get him straight, but it was just too much for him to handle. And that's what this music video is about. That I tell people that it's not just the people who are addicted that suffer, but the people who love the ones who are addicted.
That's right, and
And in this case,
that's one thing I noticed about the song. It wasn't about the drug addict itself. It's about the family and your struggle going through it. And I felt that because you're right. They don't know how much they hurt. And I've had some recovering drug addicts on my show to talk about their story, and they were out in the cold, and now they overcome it. And the main thing that they told me is that you've got to want to do it, and strongly
yeah,
want to do it.
it's got to be in your heart. And I'm not saying that it never was in Daniel's heart to
Right.
get off of it. It was, but it got too much for him in the end. And this is a very common tale. It's a common subject that there's a lot of people out there going through. And that's why we did the song. We wanted to expose even the dark side of this in hopes to try to help someone.
Right. And I think it's not only going to help someone in that position, it's going to help some families think about it too. They're going to be able to relate to that song. So I'll see that song hitting it way up in the charts. I know it's going up even now, and it's just been it's just been released October the 4th, correct?
We just released this thing. Yeah, it was a big project and a big undertaking to tell this story, and it's only a couple of days old. It's still a very new release.
Yeah, and see, I love videos. I've been doing videos more than anything else growing up. I had in 85, I had my own television program there, and then as it
Oh yeah,
got into digital, it's more fun in digital than it was with all that tape. Uh,
that's
but
right.
the person that did your music video, he did a great job at that.
He really did, and I can't speak enough about Jordan Fontenot. He is a great director, and he really took the time to read the script, and he allowed me to put timestamps on where we wanted certain parts of this video to lay. And it really, I have to praise him for how well of a job he did do. Jordan Fontenot is a fantastic director, and it's always an honor to work with him.
I got to ask this because I time everything. I know when you're in this business, your timing, and even videos, you got to say, okay, I want a commercial. Okay, it's got to be 1 minute, or it's got to be 30 seconds, because anything over that,
Oh yes.
time is money. How long did it take you and the director to finish this video?
Here's the part you're not going to believe, and I'm taking the hat off to tell you the truth here. We filmed this whole video in one day, and
Really?
that is very unheard of. We took one day and we filmed the whole entire video, and it was really, it was a lot of work, but we were all on a schedule, and we were all coming from different places to film it. So we really just put it together in one day. That's how I give you my word on it.
Wow, that's insane there because I haven't done. Sometimes it's taken me like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and that's just the person that's supposed to be ready to do the commercial at 30 second or a minute.
That's right. That's right.
Now,
It was one heck of an undertaking, but I'm proud to say we did it.
now, where was the location that you mostly used for the shooting
We
of?
mostly we shot mostly around my hometown of Walker and in Baton Rouge. We wanted to stay. We wanted to film the video in the same state where we lived, so
Right.
we kept it very very honest and candid.
Wow. Well, he did a great job on it, and you did a great job also because I could see and hear in your voice the passion and the feeling there. Because I knew when at the beginning people's going to think and look reading that says, well, he's going to talk about being a drug addict,
Yeah,
but it was just the opposite. It's about that plus what happens to a family, you know. But
that's
good job on that. Now,
well. Thank you very much.
I know you said Hank Williams, Marty Stewart's one of your, Chet Atkins, uh,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
Jason, I was at Alden and Garth Brooks and Eric Church.
yes sir.
All these really intrigued you. And what intrigued you about these artists right here that really just got you? Because something has to drag you toward the appeal to them.
I would have to say, people like Jason Aldean and Garth Brooks, more of the modern country. Well, Garth is a little more classic, but you know, I just loved their fusion of rock and country,
Hmm.
and with all the classics, I just love the stories they told and the image they portrayed. It's just a very honest image, something very very special, and I just it really grabbed me at a young age.
Well, I guess it showed their kind of inspirations, because some of their stories. Now,
Yeah,
now
right.
a lot of artists I hear is a lot of them said, "Well, I got started out singing in the church choir." Now,
Yeah,
I was going to ask you the same thing. Did you get started out singing in the church choir, or uh, to me, when I was small growing up, man, I didn't even go to church, and